Good morning, you guys. We are 8 days away from Mega Week. We did a little testing in Julesburg, Colorado. Found a couple things. One, the tranny was blown up, but we got the transmission rebuilt. It's back in there, and now I am working on the steering because when this thing left, it was turning right a little bit, and it wasn't rear steer. The front end, we had dropped the rack about 1.5 inches and kind of realigned it here at home, and the left front wheel's pointing in, so I'm just adjusting tie rod height right now to eliminate that pulling the wheel in when it leaves. If the tie rod ends are not at the right angle, you're going to pull them in because that rod actually, when it goes down, it gets shorter. So we're trying to lift that up a little bit. We're taking all the spacers out from above it. We're going to lift it up, and that'll move it up about 1/2 inch, which will help, and then we'll reset the toe on it. I got E98 cans to fill up, stuff that we're gathering up to put in the old little trailer. We need to get it washed, put a little grease in the wheel bearings. Daryl is still strapped on really well, so I'm not worried about him. Yes, that's a really long hitch extension, and yes, it does put some strain on that chassis. And no, I have not had time to extend the trailer tongue. That's a this winter project. So on 15 pounds of boost, this little 421 makes about 1,000 horsepower. We had a really good day at the dyno with it. And we had a really good day at the track with it. About 3 passes, we got it figured out, and she went her first 150-mile-an-hour pass in Colorado. So we're hoping for 8s every day on Mega Week. That's our goal. Whether we get there or not, time will tell. We'll see. All right, that's off. We're going to pull these spacers off of here. All right, we got that one back on. We put a little brake fluid on the floor to help these turn and not get bound up on the concrete. Some of you are going to be like, oh my God, brake fluid on a tire. Blah, it's going to eat the tire, and you're going to watch it bubble, and it's going to just explode in sight. And that's just not a thing. Everybody bleeds their brakes, especially the rear drums. And it gets all over the sidewall, and you brake clean it off, and it's just fine. You're still going down the road at 80 miles an hour. Nobody thinks about that. But you do something like this, and the internet explodes. So we're looking at this angle right here. Right now it's down, and the truck's off the ground in the front. So now, I don't know if you can tell, but we're at a little bit of an up angle. With 2 of us in it driving down the highway, there's going to actually be up on the end a little bit more because there's going to be some more weight in here. So what happens is when the tie rod end actually levels out, it gets longer. There's a little geometry there. When it's up like that, it tends to pull the tire in. And then the more it levels out, the further out it pushes the wheel. And then when it comes back down, it starts to come in again. It'll get shorter. It'll pull the wheel back in. So we want something right in the middle. Before, it was pretty much just level, and all we had was just toe in. So now we have a little bit of toe out, a little bit of toe in, and it shouldn't be as bad at full extension. So you can see we are about 3/4, maybe a little under 3/4 of a degree of camber on the driver's side. Passenger side's right at 0. And that's because when this thing's at full extension, we are about -1.5 to -2. And you don't want it too far, because when it comes down and settles in, we want it about -0.5 degree, -3/4, something like that. It still needs to be controllable at 150 miles an hour. So there's some give and take. Driving down the highway, we're wearing the outside of the tire just a little bit. But with as much extension as this thing has, that's a give and take. I mean, we're going to end up replacing tires a little sooner than we want to, but that's the price we pay. All right, the toe plates are on. It's a very simple setup. Most of you need to remember that before like 1980, we didn't have computers, and this is how we did shit. So we are roughly 61 and, was that 1/4? On the front. 61, shade under 5/8 in the back, so we're towed in quite a bit. We want a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch of toe in, so we're going to adjust the tire out a little bit. Make sure our steering wheel is straight. I got her adjusted. We are at 61 3/8, 61 1/2. So we're about 1/8 of an inch towed in. At 150 miles an hour, there's going to be a lot of outward force on this thing, pushing it out, so we'll be probably 0, maybe a shade past. and that should be perfect. Alignment's done on that. A little bit about the truck. We run, that is a Terminator X TBI throttle body. We run pump gas through that. And then we run E98 through the port injectors. We have a tune switch right here on the dash, and one position is street, one position is race. That flips the injectors, that flips the fuel pumps, it turns everything. So when we pull into the track on pump gas, we unhook the trailer, and when we get the tires swapped over, all we got to do is turn the tune switch, and we're ready to go racing. If you've never been on a drag and drive event, I'm going to tell you that the drag strip portion, just, going out there and trying to run eights, that's the easy part. That's the very simple part. Keeping this thing alive for 1,100 miles on the highway, that's something different. And if you're thinking my 8-second car could do that, come and do it, please. Please come and do it. Sign up for Mega Week, Race Week, Sick Week, Sick Summer. Sign up for any drag and drive event. I will say that it's the most work you'll ever do, but it's the most fun you'll ever have. This thing has a 350 gear in it, but we run a 33-inch truck tire on the back on the street, and that puts us about 2750 or so on the highway at 65 miles an hour. We do have to carry everything with us that we might need, so we carry spare spark plugs, gaskets, all of our own stuff, our chairs, our canopy, our scooter, a whole little Harbor Freight side cart cabinet for the toolbox. We've got a little air compressor in here that's run off the inverter. We got a little misting fan that we have. Battery chargers for the power tools. The jack is down here. We keep spare parts in these totes in here. There's a starter alternator. There's all kinds of just randomness in there. Loctite, bug killer, bee spray, sunscreen, you name it. This is a little folding workbench that's attached to the side of the trailer. We have a spare front runner on top because that is way harder to find on the side of the road in some small town. And then we have the spare trailer tire. So we don't carry a spare transmission or a spare motor or cylinder heads or any of that. If we have catastrophic failure that bad, our week is just done. We don't have the budget, or the space or the, anything to be carrying stuff like that. Eventually we might. We'll probably get to a spot where we at least have a spare tranny. But honestly, I don't want to be changing an engine on the side of the highway or at a racetrack. I'm getting too old for that. I just don't have it in me anymore. We can have a transmission swapped in about an hour. That's not a huge deal, but we do have a spare turbo for it, and a couple other things. But for the most part, if we have a engine problems that bad, we're just going home. Probably notice there's no buttons on the steering wheel, no wiring whatsoever, and that's because we didn't want anything in the way. We didn't want to have to pull the wheel off and hang it up somewhere and worry about the wires. So everything that we need is on the shifter. There's 2 buttons in the front right here, and then there's the one on the side. That's a TCI shifter, and it's got B&M side plate on it with the button on the side. So we've got trans brake, line lock, and bump button all right there on the shifter. That actually worked out easier for Cameron. She likes it that way, and it keeps wires out of the way. So, and Daryl's in there right now riding shotgun, Daryl 2.0. Got 20 gallons of pump gas fuel capacity, and when we make passes at the drag strip, we try to make sure that we have at least a half a tank of fuel back here for ballast. In front of the bed, you can see the condenser for the AC unit. We put an access panel on the driver's side because the transmission cooler is in there, so if we ever had a leak or ever had to get to a line, we wanted to be able to get to it easy, so an access panel just made sense there. And over on this side, that's where the E98 fuel cell is. So she's on the ground. We're just about ready. Stay tuned, you guys. Mega Week is coming quick.